Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome to episode 74 of the Horsemen podcast. Finally, we got an episode out of the news at the beginning of the year, but hey, we got a good one for you guys because myself and Ricky, or wait, he's over here. Damn mirrors. We are joined by the second ever person from BANGERTV, but also from the band Vesperia, as well as the session drummer of Malice Divine. Please welcome Mr. Dylan Gowan.
Thank you very much, guys. Happy to be here.
So how are you, Mister?
I'm good. Just been working on some session work. Just working on a couple of different projects. So hopefully get to release them later on this year. Working on the latest. Well, the one thing I can announce is working on the latest Vesperia record, and there's a couple of other projects that are in the works. So later on this year, I'll announce what they are. But I'm very excited when it's all done. It's still like in the recording phase, so when it's fully done, I'll announce it on my Instagram page.
Hell yeah!
Hell yeah!
Well, a good place to kind of begin, because typically when we'll ask questions, but it's more or less just like we're just hanging out, talking metal. Like That's always been the vibe of our show. It's like we love to have a good time, almost like as if we're backstage at a show.
Yeah.
But a good place to kind of begin is the Dylan Gowan metal and music origin stories, because the genesis of Dylan Gowan in terms of a musician, drummer, and music lover. Because we always ask this to everybody, because everybody has a different story. Like myself, it was because of pro wrestling and video games, as well as classic rock, which typically it's like the parents are always first. But for you, how did you fall in love with rock music and then eventually into the rabbit hole of metal?
Well, I grew up in a very musical family. Like my dad, he's a professional musician. So from a very early age, I was thrown into like the rock sphere pretty much from the get-go. Like he loved Yes and Genesis and King Crimson, Elton John. He loved Queen. So I mean, he had like just an extensive rock catalog that I was introduced to at a really young age. And then eventually, new metal came onto like the whole like scene, so to speak, like rock, like music scene, right? But so I was really getting into bands like Slipknot and Deftones and Korn, and then eventually kind of found System of a Down, and I loved that stuff and how chaotic and crazy it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then when I got into high school, so I was kind of a little late to metal because I really got into it at about high school in terms of like the more kind of extreme end of like progressive metal. That it was the moment somebody gave me a copy, like it was actually my friend Alex, gave me a copy of My Arms Rehearse by Opeth. And then from the get-go, it just went like down that rabbit hole of finding like Cynic and Gojira and Mastodon and who else? And then what would be another one that like Tesseract and Periphery and Animals as Leaders and
BT Bam.
Between the Buried and Me, like just wanted to find as much progressive metal bands as I possibly could. And then eventually you get into death metal and then discover groups like Bloodbath, and then notice all the connections and everything like that.
Yes.
So then eventually, just started playing in bands, and then did a East Coast tour of Canada with my first band, How Will's Die. And after that, I just knew I wanted to be a professional musician after that. So like I played drums since I was 11, but I didn't know if I had like the chops to do it professionally. And then it was after that tour, I was like, you know what? Maybe I can make this work.
Yeah, because for our audience who don't know, this man is the son of a legend, Lawrence Gowan from Styx. So
how'd you find that out?
At Wikipedia and Metal Archives revealed, and I was like, what?
Oh, Metal Archives revealed it?
Yeah, on your page.
You have no idea the amount of stuff on Metal Archives that we go through. Like we have actually made a game out of it.
I'm surprised they found that though, because like I don't really talk about it that often because it's like we're on totally two different career paths, right? So
yeah,
I'm surprised that I'm surprised that they found that they found that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a shocking revelation. I was like, wait, what? And then I had to go to Wikipedia to make the connection. I was like,
yeah, when he told me, I was like, no way. I was like,
what the hell?
Damn.
But yeah, so pretty much right out of that, you know, it figured music was destined to happen for you at some point in your life.
Yeah,
it was already in your blood, pretty much.
Because I mean, like everybody in my family, they all play instruments, right? So, but they're all from different music scenes. So, like my uncle plays bass in a lot of jazz bands, and my other uncle Patrick, he's more of like he does like part-time stuff, and he does a lot of the more classic rock and folk stuff, and then my dad does a lot of the progressive rock stuff. So, and my sister, she used to play violin and was really good, and then she stopped, and then she became a doctor, which kind of like did a complete 180. So, so it's just everybody just has a huge appreciation for music, and I think that's the reason why all of us kind of gravitate towards that sort of field.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting to think that with all your different backgrounds from your family, yourself, did you ever have any clashes in your household? Like, oh, I need to listen to this higher. No, you can't put this. Mine try to put this. Because in my household, we have different styles of music. I'm mostly the metal rock guy. My mom's like more of the romanticized kind of thing. My sister's more into rap. My dad's more into like the country kind of way. So different styles of clashes. So have you ever had that in your household? But you're like, no, you can't listen to that.
Not really, because everybody pretty much we listen to pretty much everything. It just happens like we just have like our favorites, right? Like obviously my favorite is metal, but it's never been like you can't listen to this band or you shouldn't go and see that concert. It's been nothing like that. It's been like no, go and experience live music and just go and just see as many different bands as possible. Like even just before coming on the show, I was listening to Ash Nico, who's like a crazy like trap artist. And normally I don't listen to that type of music, but since I've been working with actually Sam Astaroth, because now he's doing the whole like rap metal thing. So since I'm playing drums for him, I had to like listen to some of the stuff that he likes in order to get a sense of what the type of drumming that he wants for his live shows. So was just playing along to that kind of stuff, and you go, there's some pretty cool stuff in that genre that I wasn't really noticing when I first listened to it. So it's pretty much like I'll listen to everything, but obviously I have my favorites being metal.
Of course. You hear that, Levi? You gotta get to see more concerts.
One day I will have a year where I'll go to more than one show.
It's fine, man. I mean, like I told you before. I mean, when I first started going to concerts, I was 18 years old. My first concert was Kansas, which I never thought in a million years I was ever going to see Kansas. Yeah, it was Kansas. And, you know, even though I'm not the biggest Kansas fan, it's still fucking Kansas.
Carry on, Wayward Son, man.
Exactly. Dust in the Wind.
Dust in the Wind.
Yeah.
By Fire with Fire. You know?
Yeah, so kind of going back a little bit to like getting into it in high school, like I remember like going back to when I was first getting into metal, like it was because of my oldest brother Rue, who's no longer with us. He introduced me to Metallica and Alice in Chains and Pantera pretty early on, and I fell in love with Metallica. I mean, proof's in the pudding up there. But then Avenged Sevenfold became a huge inspiration for me when I was 9. And then over time getting into Sabbath and Priest and Maiden. And then towards the end of middle school, got into thrash, got into Slayer, I got into Megadeth, Testament, Anthrax, Exodus. And then pretty much like you in high school, getting into death metal and crazy stuff. And yeah, I got into the prog stuff a little bit later. Like I knew Rush. I was a big Rush fan. I knew some Dream Theater, but it wasn't, and already a big Mastodon fan, but I didn't go head on until about 9-10 years ago when I found Opeth, and I was like, consider me a changed man. I am a different person now, thanks to Opeth.
Kind of with me the same thing, because I usually started getting into extreme metal when I got into high school, and I was telling Levi that death metal was my first introduction to extreme metal. Black metal scared the living crap out of me, especially when you're listening to Welcome to Hell when you're 16 years old. You actually think you're actually going to hell.
Like, oh my God, where's the nearest cross? Oh, please help me.
Yeah, but once you got into like death metal and grindcore, you go back to black ones, like it's not as bad, you know.
Yeah,
and
it's not as terrifying.
And with prog metal, I don't know. I can't really remember where I actually got to prog metal. Maybe because I'm a big Pink Floyd fan. I actually started going. Yeah. Pink Floyd, motherfucker.
It's fan, not flan. You know what? It's flan. It's flan now. You know, flan. Yes. Flan is the word of the episode now.
A big Pink Floyd fan. I think it's kind of started going into that kind of rabbit hole with Rush, and then Journey, and then King Crimson, and then just went down there.
Sweet.
Look, hey Ricky, just for you.
Yeah, I know. I saw it.
I had to get you somehow. But moving on, I actually now want to talk a little bit about Malice Divine, like you being a session drummer for Rick's band, playing this hybrid of mellow death and black metal. And of course, you saw me do the review of the new album, and I was like, holy shit, this is some really good stuff. Definitely, like, I remember saying, like, I interpret it as like being a little closer to the mellow death side than the black metal, mainly because your drumming and some of those riffs were like very much like triplet chug-a-thons that I absolutely love, like Cannibal Corpse, Blood Red Throne, Decapitated, like those kind of triplet chugs. I was like hearing that on some of those songs, and I was like, holy fucking shit, this guy, goddamn. So like, how did you and Rick come together to do session work for his project?
Oh, thanks. Thank you very much for, first of all, like listening to the album, and I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed it. That
definitely going to be awesome. Definitely going to be in the collection very
soon. Stay with me eventually.
Awesome. Well, I'm just really glad that you guys checked it out and enjoyed it, and that's always good to hear. I've known Rick in the Toronto metal scene for, I want to say, almost a decade now. Like, he and I have played many shows together with like various other different bands. And then I remember when I was working at the first Shredders of Metal, I think it was on the second day, Rick was mentioning that he was leaving his other project, Astaroth Incarnate, and then going and making his own band. But I didn't really hear anything until really the start of the pandemic, where he was looking for a drummer to record the record. And I just reached out, hey, well, since all the tours and the shows that I had got completely torpedoed, if you want a drummer for your project, I'd be more than happy to jump in and learn the stuff and record it. And he's like, yeah, let's do it. So sends me the songs for the first record. We get that record done, and then he was just like an absolute workhorse. He wanted to get the second record done, and I didn't even know that he had another one ready to go. And so he's just like, do you want to play on this record? And I'm like, absolutely. So that's kind of how it all started. Well, up until this point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because that album, I mean, depending on what other mellow death black metal albums come out this year, that one has the potential to go up on my list. Like right now, even though it's only a month into the year, already it's like that and Obituary and Riverside are like right up there for me right now. And to think, only 1 month in, and already some kick-ass stuff is
got a shitload to go.
Metallica. So yeah, it's going to be wild.
Well, it's like I even said in the last video that I did, like Sky Void of Stars by Catatonia, I was blown away by that record. And that's it. Album of the year contender, and we're just in February. So it's a good sign, though. That means like everybody's going to be making some strong releases this year.
Yeah, we always say that every year, and every year is a kick in the fucking balls. Like, how could it get any better? And it gets better and better and better.
Yeah, and it was like, yeah, because like last year, like 2022 was mainly like the year for the underground. Like, not that many mainstream bands had albums out last year, apart from like, you know, Megadeth and such. But for the underground, it was like super strong. This year, it's almost like we're getting a good balance of mainstream and underground because, you know, with the mainstream darlings, you know, you got Metallica this year, and then even for the diehards like Overkill and maybe New Exodus this year, maybe New Testament. That's just so much. And it's like we haven't even scratched the surface yet. Yeah. So it's looking to be probably another strong year overall. So, but now I want to talk a little bit about Vesperia. How did you become familiar with joining those guys?
Well, funny enough, with Vesperia, it's like since the Toronto metal scene is pretty small, like not in terms of like just, well, I mean, they're kind of thinking about it because it's like, you know, it all just blurs in together. So it's just trying to remember how it all went down. But no, the way that I joined Vesperia was I played a show with my other band, Hallows Die, and Vesperia, I think, was their drummer was leaving. Great drummer Corey Hoffing. He plays in Crimson Shadows. He was leaving to do Crimson Shadows full time, and Casey and Frankie came out to a show, and they were saying, and they're like, "Hey, are you interested in auditioning for Vesperia?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So joined up with Vesperia, did an audition, passed it, got the gig to join that band, and then been playing with them ever since.
Yeah, because like Vesperia, it's like so many things, like, you know, death metal, folk, and symphonics just all mashed together, and it's like I'm always fascinated whenever bands incorporate the embellishment atmosphere of a symphonic band, but adding in a little bit of that folky instrumentation and just playing brutal yet melodic stuff on top. Like, hell, a band like Nile, granted, not really symphonic, but you do get that occasional ancient Egyptian folk influence in there. And it's like, it always just adds something different and something unique. And I really, really like that about bands who incorporate that into death metal or extreme music as a whole.
I mean, they like with Morgan, I mean, Morgan and Frankie and Casey, they're all just music lovers, but they have their favorites as well, but they love the kind of Celtic and the symphonic metal stuff. And they just throw that all in together. And I remember, you know, when I did the audition for Vesperia, their guitar player Frankie, he's just an absolute machine. And he was one of those guys who kind of put me through like symphonic metal boot camp in the sense.
Wow, never heard that one before.
In the sense, because a lot of that, like, oh, sorry, I didn't catch that last part.
No, you're good.
Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, no, it's because he's just one of those ridiculous guitar players, like super talented. And yeah, so he and I would just sit down and literally just go through every single kick hit, because I mean, a lot of Vesperia stuff is super fast. It's very heavy. And we play for almost like 45 minutes. Like when we opened for Kalma, we were given 45 minutes on that whole tour. So just being able to kind of sit in a practice space for like 5 hours, just making sure that every kick hit is very clean and it's all like crisp and it all links up. So, you know, there was days where it's like you're so angry that you're not getting it, and then eventually after like hour number 3, it's like you break through that barrier, and now it's like you're so synced up now that that we were just able to pull off a decent show.
Yeah, because sometimes some metalheads out there, when they go to a live show and they see, oh, they missed one note, they start crucifying the living fuck out of the artist, which it has happened before. But I want to ask you something. You kind of briefly mentioned about the scene when you grew up. Growing up in, was it Toronto where you say you grew up in Toronto?
Yep.
All right. Growing up in Toronto, was the scene as strong when you were getting into metal, or how was it that you got involved in the scene?
Well, I really didn't get into the scene until I started playing in my first band, Howls Die, and they were already kind of one of the staple bands within the Toronto metal scene. But the scene in Toronto only had such a handful of bands, despite Toronto being such a massive city, that there was only such a handful of bands, because it's like you had the metal scene, you had the jazz scene, you had the rock scene, you had the indie rock scene, you had the funk scene, right? So metal bands could only play in so many small venues, right? So it was very easy to kind of go to a metal show, but there was also, since everybody was playing in different bands and different scenes, it was almost difficult to even start forming bands. But I remember the scene when I first joined the Toronto metal scene, it was really strong. And then over time, it kind of slowed down a little bit. And now in about the last 5 years, it's really started to pick back up again. And that's just due to promoters like Noel from Inertia Entertainment, that is bringing a lot of the metal bands over and having local bands opening up for them. And that's giving a boost to the scene. Same with Karina Davey from Neurotic Entertainment. She does a similar thing to like having bigger bands come by and then also building kind of a more of a local sense, where it's a lot of the local bands will kind of get together and play. So you have Noel that books all the big bands, and then occasionally has some of the local bands opening up for them, and then Karina kind of having the more kind of all the local bands playing together. So those two are really kind of helping build the scene in Toronto. And with Noel, we got to play with Amorphous, we got to play with Swallow the Sun, Arcona, Hydevoke. Who else did we open for? I'm just trying to remember, actually. Who else did we what did we play with? I have to double check. I don't know why I'm blanking out right now, but we got to play a lot of Rhapsody of Fire. So we got to be able to play with all these different bands because of Unleash the Archers. So it's like, so right now the scene is getting a lot more recognition now, and it's like, I mean, the bands now in the scene are really, really, really good. So that's but I do wish that there is more progressive metal bands, though. If you're a thrash fan, it's really good. If you're a death metal fan, it's really good. Prague in Toronto for progressive metal, there is a much needed there's some much needed bands to kind of jump in, because
a much needed shot in the arm.
Yeah, because there's not a lot of progressive metal bands within the Toronto metal scene currently.
Yeah, because it's like whenever you think of Canadian prog or technical metal bands, it's always like Montreal or the Quebec area in general, because Gorguts, Cryptopsy, and the tech death scene in general.
Yeah, it's mostly Montreal, Vancouver have all the kind of the tech death bands. Toronto is really getting a lot of the kind of thrash bands. Who else would be? I'm trying to remember. Like Winnipeg has a lot of really good like kind of punk bands, and I remember Winnipeg a while back, they had a grindcore scene out of all places. But, it's kind of like every single city kind of has their own specialty. And if you go up north, if you go like around like Sudbury, like northern Ontario, there's at one point in time there was a pretty big black metal scene. So it's kind of wherever you go in Canada, there's kind of like the specialty kind of subgenre that the bands kind of pick.
Now, earlier when you was bringing up playing for Swallow the Sun or opening for Swallow the Sun, this guy is the biggest Swallow the Sun fan I know, and I can't blame him because I'm a big fan of them too. So, because it's like we each have our own like top favorites where we're just like, oh, just get me a fucking where's the lotion? Where's the lotion? I need something here. It's like that kind of bond with a band. Like for Ricky, his two are Swallow the Sun and AC/DC. For me, Avenged Sevenfold and Metallica because of the nostalgia and such. But so we brought up Metal Archives a bit ago, and earlier Ricky briefly brought up, we play this game where we go through the metal archives, we pick a random band, and we ask somebody if they can somehow guess, because they have the similar artist section, which whoever created this website and put that feature in, God bless you, because holy shit, the amount of bands I have discovered through this feature is ridiculous. So I figured a good way to do this game to pick the first band, why don't we pick Vesperia? Because there are quite a few bands on Vesperia's page that are interesting comparison bands. So if you were to try and guess 5 bands you think that would be at the top of the similar artist section for Vesperia's page, what bands do you think they'd be?
Okay, so my first guess would be Septic Flesh.
They're in the list, but not in the top 5, which is odd.
Really? Okay, because we get compared to them quite a bit. Funny enough, like
you hear that Metal Archives? Bump them up.
Or the people who vote on this stuff, bump them up.
Yeah.
Okay, another one would be Flesh God Apocalypse.
Now that one, shockingly, not even in the overall.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Then they're probably gonna give us like more of a folk metal comparison. Helveti.
They're on there, but lower. They're actually above Septic Flesh.
Man, I'm bombing this. Holy cow!
Don't worry. Dylan, don't worry. Don't worry. Everyone here does the same thing. Even as pros, we're like, what the fuck?
So, okay, another guess would be Moon Sorrow.
Number 2.
Number 2.
There you go.
What would be... Okay, so last one. I'm going to say Ensiferum.
Number 4 or 3.
3. Okay, what were the 5?
So number 5 was a band called Hollenthon from Austria.
Okay.
Who are basically the same exact style as Vesperia, symphonic folk, mellow death, so on. 4, Kalma.
Oh, Kalma, yeah.
Kalma was up there. And then number 1, not sure if you're familiar with this band, Unbowed.
Oh, Unbowed, okay. But it's funny, though, when the Kalma comparison was definitely because of the tour. I think that's the reason why they got bumped up on the similar artists because of that whole run. But yeah, oh god, there was such a funny story though. On that Kalma tour, it was when we did. It's kind of coming back. It's like we played a show in Kelowna. This thing, it was like the second or third last show. We were pretty much like on the way back from the West Coast now to the East Coast. And Veli, the keyboardist, he was going on and on about he was missing his dogs, and it's like he was saying like how much like he misses them, and he just wants to like hug them the moment he gets back home. And he shows me a picture, and it's like they're 2 giant huskies, and I was like, oh wait, oh you have dogs? Like I have a dog. And he's like, oh, no way. What is it? And it's like, and I showed him a picture of my Bichon Frise with a little bit of like a party hat on him. Right. And he goes, that is no dog. That is toy. He's just like, he and I never really spoke on the tour until we had that moment. And I was like, oh shit, I thought we were bonding. He's like, that is no dog. That is toy.
That is toy.
Wow.
Oh god.
So last time I saw him, he's just like, how's your toy? My dog? Yes. That was good.
How's your toy?
Wow. Wow.
Jesus Christ. That's fucking great. Well, considering that we talked about briefly on Instagram about how we're both huge Opeth fans, why don't we test your Opeth knowledge and see what 5 bands you think would be top 5 for Opeth?
Ooh, to the test.
Okay. Similar to so on Metal Archive, similar to Opeth.
Yes.
Because Opeth are really their own thing, though. So it's difficult to kind of say like what would be, because there's a lot of bands that I know that sound very similar to Opeth, that would be on like the similar artist list of other bands, but I don't know what you would really call like similar to Opeth in terms of connection,
yeah,
genre.
They would probably put, like, my guess would probably be like Edge of Sanity would probably be one.
Number two.
Okay.
Yep.
They would probably put, I think they'd probably put bands that are connected to Opeth in some sort of way. So they'll probably have Catatonia on there.
Number one.
Okay. The next, Porcupine Tree is not on Metal Archives whatsoever.
Unfortunately not.
Yeah. Then my next guess, Mastodon would be.
Shockingly, no.
No, is Mastodon?
Well, not top 20. Not top 20. Like how they present it, it's like they give you a list of 20, then they got the see, you click to see more, and it's like the endless list. It's like Jesus Christ.
So then another one, probably a connection to them, would be Dream Theater.
Another shocking one, not in the top 20.
Well, okay, so then I have how many guesses left? 2 or 1?
Thank you.
Yeah, you got one more.
1. Okay, so it's Catatonia, Edge of Sanity. What would be? Because Porcupine Tree's not on there. Dream Theater wouldn't be on there. They would probably put something like Ackerfeld's like old band, like Eruption or something like that. They'd probably throw that in there.
They actually don't have a page.
Oh, really? Okay.
So
what would they say?
Well, actually, the top 20, it's like a pretty eclectic list. Like starting from 20 up, you have Leprous.
Oh, okay, so they put newer bands on there as well.
Yeah.
Well,
you got Leprous. One of my favorites, Black Crown Initiate.
Okay, yeah.
Dan Swano's solo band.
Yeah.
Ackercocky.
Okay, yeah.
Which that's always kind of an odd one because they're like so like more extreme, like because of that more blackened vibe they got, and even a little more brutal, especially the early stuff. But Storm Corrosion with
Storm Corrosion,
Steven.
That was such a like a bizarre project, but it was
bizarre one. Yeah.
But it was really interesting though. Like I know a lot of people that listened to Storm Corrosion, they were kind of like, they weren't as into it because they were expecting like an Opeth Porcupine Tree hybrid, and they got something completely different from that.
Yeah.
But God, the music video though that they had for one of the songs, I can't remember, where they had the kind of puppets. It was like the silhouettes. That one was probably one of the coolest videos I think I've ever seen.
Then after Storm Corrosion, they had fellow Canadians Ancients.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I could see. Riverside,
yeah.
And then this one I could never fucking pronounce right, but I'm gonna try my best. So don't kill me, people. Don't kill me, people from Finland. Okay, Ikoinen Kamos, which is they're like something like that. They're described as like black metal early, and then progressive Black and Death later, but they're unknown, so I guess. November.
Oh, November, yeah.
November. This is an obvious one. Wilderun.
Yeah.
Oh, Wilderun, yeah.
And oh my god, that album last year was so great.
Those guys are doing really, really well right now. They're on
getting nominated for a Grammy, which was out of nowhere.
Yeah, what?
Wait, Wilderun got nominated for a Grammy?
Yeah, for best metal performance. They didn't win. I think
Ozzy won. Ozzy won it.
But still, to get a nod from the Grammys, I mean, granted, Grammys are stupid, but still out of nowhere.
I didn't
run. Like, huh?
Really? I didn't know that. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Absolutely weird.
I mean, it was cool, but then I always remember Jethro Tull won the fucking for best metal album.
You're bringing PTSD back.
Over Metallica
in '89, which don't get me started. Next up, November's Doom.
Oh yeah,
which I know Ricky would go for that. Amorphous.
Yeah.
Amorphous.
This is a band I need to check out, and I keep hearing about them. Barren Earth.
Oh, Barren Earth. Okay, I think that's the guy. It's the guy from Swallow the Sun. That's his side project, I think.
Nico?
I think I'm not entirely sure. I haven't really checked out Barren Earth.
Well, it is pretty much.
I know there's some connection though.
Yeah, there's connection to Moon Sorrow. You got Marco from Moon Sorrow, Oli from Amorphous, but the big member is Sammy from Creator.
Right.
So there you go with that. Then after Barren Earth, one of my favorites, and I wish Swanno would do another album with this project, Witherscape. I want another album because Northern Sanctuary was so good, but I need to contain myself. This one, In Mourning, which has become a favorite of mine. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they are so good. You could definitely tell they love their Opeth, but they got a little more blast beats going on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, their last album that came out in 2021, The Bleeding Veil, it's such a beautiful album. So I'll have to send that to you for you to check out at some point because it's so good.
Yeah, it's funny though when like you seeing some of the comments on some of the banger videos where it's like, have you checked out this band or that band? And
yeah,
it's like, what's awesome about getting those comments is like, oh, cool, I get to check out these bands, right? And that's kind of that starts like that kind of builds that like community, right? Where it's everyone starts like it's kind of like our version of tape trading, where it's like sending a comment and being like, hey, you've checked out this band, go to their Bandcamp or SoundCloud. I don't know if anybody uses that anymore, but like
only the mumble rappers.
Yeah. And as a side note, if it weren't for Banger, this podcast would have never been here.
Yeah,
to be honest. So we owe everything to Banger.
Yeah, we do. And then after In Mourning, and then the final three bands before Edge of Sanity and Catatoni have Enslaved.
Yep.
Nia Bliviscaris, and Ishan.
Oh, yeah.
So there you go. It's like totally different sounding. Like the only bands that you could say sound similar to Opeth is In Mourning and Wilderun because, Opeth being like the biggest inspiration for both bands.
Speaking of Enslaved, the Opeth Enslaved tour was my first metal show I ever went to.
Oh, you lucky.
It was, I think I was 14. I think that was my first ever metal show, and I remember I was right in the front to see Opeth, and I was just right in the middle of where the mosh pit started, but I didn't know if it was going to actually happen there. So, and then all of a sudden, the moment Opeth went on stage, the crowd just moved like a wave, and it just went. I just was lifted up in the air and going, okay, I'm guessing going this way now.
It's like, you're going this way. No, we're going this way. What the heck?
I'm like, I can't get injured. I have hockey tomorrow.
Nope. And just to kind of test our knowledge, Ricky, I would like you to pull up Metallica for me, and I'm not even looking at the site.
Alrighty.
And I'll tell you the five.
Alrighty, let me just go. Metallica, Metallum. Trust me, he's the biggest Metallica fan I know, and Metallica's like my top third band of all time. He knows more stuff than I do about Metallica. So
if there's any sort of Metallica question that I think.
All right.
That you can throw at me and see if I can.
So, top 5 Metallica, go.
Megadeth.
Number 1.
Testament.
Number 2.
Exodus.
Number 3.
Evil.
Number 4.
Anthrax.
Number 5.
Damn. He got it.
And I didn't even have to go onto the page. I just knew. And hell, some of the top 10. Death Angel, Diamond Head, Zentrix. Now I'm just showing off.
Now you're just showing off. Now you're just showing off here.
All right, and now your turn to close out of the page, and I'm going to get you on Swallow the Sun.
Oh, God.
Because unfortunately, no AC/DC on Metallica.
I know.
Somewhat baffling.
I know.
Go, top 5 Swallow the Sun.
Catatonia, November's Doom, Daylight Dies, October Tide, Saturnus, Insomnium, My Dying Bride, Tears of Eternity. I think you got the point, people.
Except you missed number 3, Draconian.
Draconian, yeah, trust me. But you get the point.
Wait, was Paradise Lost on that list?
Not in the top 20.
I think they're at the
bottom. They're probably near the bottom. Yeah, they're like in like the 30.
It's because range. Swallow Sun falls more into the metal Death Doom kind of thing, more things from My Dying Bride, Catatonia, Early Anathema, late Anathema shit. But Paradise Lost is one of those bands that kind of has more to like the aspects, disembowelment, coffins kind of sound to it, or even Hooded Menace.
Autopsy.
Yeah, Autopsy.
Yeah, because like Ricky and I were both big Death Doom fans, but I'm more on the traditional Death Doom side where it's more closer to death metal and Black Sabbath worship, and he's bigger into the grandiose, more almost gothic melodic side, which I love that stuff too, but I do like to hear some caveman like going on, which is why he kills me all the time for liking Hooded Menace more than Swallow the Sun. But hey,
it's funny, that's a band I know Blaine like absolutely loves them, but I've never listened to them.
Oh man, you're missing out. You are missing out on some awesome shit. Especially the last album, Trying to Spell, just because you had Andy LaRocque from King Diamond producing, and you get the core Death Doom sound, but you hear so much classic metal like King Diamond, Merciful Fate, Judas Priest, even Metallica moments in there with the melodies.
That came out 2020, right?
21, yeah. It was like tail end of August.
Yeah. I think that was in my top 2 of the year.
Yeah, I think it was my number 3 that year.
Yeah, it was top 2 because number 2 was Hooded Menace and number 1 was Moonflowers of Follow Sun. I remember that. I remember that.
But kind of touching back a little bit on the prog metal stuff, Dylan, because like out of the group of friends that Ricky and I have on the show that have done the show for years, like our friend Arthur, Hannah, Raphael, and some others, I'm the big prog guy, even though there's still so much prog I've yet to really dive head on into. It's like, for me, it's like the big bands like Dream Theater, Queensryche, Tool, Mastodon, Opeth, Gojira. But fun question: if you were to create a prog metal supergroup, vocalist, 2 guitarists, bassist, keyboardist, and drummer, who would you choose?
I was ready for this question.
We're gonna make it easier. Can it have to be living people, or can it also be dead people?
That's good. That's a very good point. Yeah.
Let's do
all of it. Make it easier for you.
Okay, so for drums, it's going to be Matt Garska from Animals as Leaders. To me, that's a no-brainer, because that guy is just an absolute beast. He's an absolute monster player. Watch all of his educational videos, his YouTube clips, every single Animals as Leaders live footage that he puts out. I mean, that guy's just an absolute monster. And so he would be drums. For bass, it'd be a little different. I would pick Alex Webster, even though there is a prog connection. He was, I think it was Conquered Dysphoria. I think that was his band, that like his prog instrumental band. He was also in Blotted Science, which is another great band that had Hans Grossman played drums on that project, and he's an absolute beast.
And Ron Jarzenbeck from Watchtower.
That's right. And so I pick Alex Webster on bass because he's just a killer player. Guitarist is tough. Like, I know the obvious one I would pick is Ackerfeld, but I'm gonna go with Aaron Marshall from Intervals. Because he's an absolute killer player, and the things that I've been really getting into lately is a lot of the kind of instrumental guitarists that play progressive metal, like Pliny and Angel Vivaldi and Intervals, and Through I, as well as like Andy James, like Nita Strauss, my bad. And so I definitely pick Aaron Marshall as the first guitar player. Instead of a keyboardist, I would go with a violinist. I would pick Tim from Ne Obliviscaris. I think just that band is incrable. I would definitely love to talk about their new record coming up in a couple of months, but
me too.
I have no idea whether or not we get to review it, because it's usually the biggest record that comes out that week is the one that we normally tackle. So so I'm not sure if Ne Obliviscaris is going to be the one that we talk about, but hopefully that'd be one that I would love to discuss on the channel someday. As a second guitarist, I would go with. Okay, it's tough to pick just one. It's tough to pick one.
It is. So many to go through.
You know what? I would go with. You know what? I just go with Pliny. I'll go with Pliny as a second guitarist. You know, he's again just another killer guitar player. He can do it all. And I'm kind of like, in a way, it's like I'm almost thinking of the band being like, this is a band that could gel really well together if given like the chance to make a super group. I know the obvious one would be like pick Ackerfeld or pick Steve Wilson or pick Paul Masvidal or something like that. But I mean, as much as I love all those guys, it's like I'm almost thinking of it. If I was to create a band, I'd be wanting to pick band members. I'd be like, okay, who would like the chemistry wise? Maybe I'm overthinking it too. So like,
you're good. Trust me.
Vocalist, I'd probably go with Devin Townsend.
Ooh,
like the guy's got a crazy range. He can do it all. Absolute, just a killer vocalist that, that can just do it all.
He can scare you to death and sing you to sleep at the same time.
What is it that Sam called it? Dream metal?
Dream metal?
7,000?
Yeah. What did he say? Dream metal?
I think he did.
Oh, true. Okay.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
Long time ago.
Yeah. But hey, Ricky.
But, I mean, that's a fair description, though.
It is. Especially all the dreamscape stuff on like the softer tracks.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Ricky, if you were to pick a prog metal supergroup, who would you have for drums, guitars, bass, keyboards, etc., and drums?
Okay.
I'll answer too.
Okay. I probably have Chuck as guitarist and vocals.
Nice.
I'm surprised you didn't mention Chuck. I was like, I'm gonna go with a bit of a prog death.
I will. I'll get more in depth on that.
Bass. I think I'm gonna go with Alex as well, because I think the chemistry with Alex would probably make it good.
Oh yeah.
Now, second guitarist. Oh god. Oh geez. There's so many I could pick. You know what? Just for the hell of it, for drums, I'm gonna go with Neil Peart. I don't know why. I'm gonna go with him.
I think he would go perfectly.
Yeah.
In a band like this.
Now, as for second guitarists and keyboards, you know what? For keyboards, just because I'm selfish and I love her, I'm gonna go with Lindsay Schoolcraft on keyboards. Now,
I think she would go well.
Yeah. Now, for second guitarist. I'm gonna go with, I don't know his name, but the guy from Vector.
Oh, what the fuck is his name? Son of a.
Yeah, but you know who it is. You know.
Yeah. God damn it, Metallum, help me out. Metal Archives, help me. Dave DeSanto.
There you go. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, I mean, that would be kind of a cool thing.
All right, well, for my picks.
Oh wait, what about vocalist?
Chuck would.
Chuck would be.
So
the
he'd be going for.
Okay.
He's going for a more prog death vibe.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm gonna try go for an all-encompassing one. So for guitars, Chuck, and John Petrucci from Dream Theater. I would have been curious to hear that duo together if they had the chance, because I think they could have created magic. For bass, I could go Alex Webster, but I'm going to go with Steve DiGiorgio.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's obvious connection with he and Chuck from their time in Death. So, and Steve can encompass any style. I mean, hell, Soen, he was an original member of Soen, and it was killer. For keyboards, I'll probably go with Derek Sherinian. I would go with him because he can, like, yeah, it's like Jordan Rudess is really good, but I like Derek because he has the more rock and roll style to his playing, which I think would go perfect. For vocals, oh God, there are so many great ones.
You're gonna go with Michael Ockerfeld. I know you.
Sure. I'll go Michael for vocals. I was torn between he or Dan Swano, but I think
I knew you were gonna say Dan Swano. I was like, it's between.
Well, you know what? You know what? Sorry, Michael, but I gotta go Swano just because he's got the higher range.
Wow.
Sorry, Michael. I hope you'll forgive me. Maybe if I had a third guitarist, I'll add Michael, so that way you could do a lot of stuff. And then for drums, I'm gonna go with Gene Hoglan. Because I think in terms of like overall drums, he can encompass any band style and do a good job with it. I mean, hell, he played live in Opeth for a little while in like 06, and even played live for like bands like Unearth, and of course we know in Death and Testament, Dark Angel. Like the guy's just, I mean, they call him the fucking human drum machine, the atomic clock, for a reason, because he's just wow.
You know what would be perfect for a super group? Steve Harris as bass for a project.
Yeah, actually, I forgot about bass player. Yeah, I could go Steve. Yeah. I could go Steve. Or no, I said no. Never mind. I said Giorgio.
Yeah, you said Giorgio.
but yeah, I mean, it's just prog. It's like it doesn't have to exclusively be prog. Like they could just be so talented enough that they could easily fit into something like that.
But that's what makes. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Ricky.
Oh no, go ahead.
Are you sure?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. But that's what makes prog such a fun genre to listen to, because there's no boundaries to it. And that's why, like, if you're somebody like me that listens to a little bit of everything, but metal is more your favorite genre, it's a perfect one to really get into, because there is no limits to what you can do with it. You can get away with throwing in a lot of different genres but have metal be the basis of it. And even though, like, the reason why a lot of people may not like it is because it can get like too crazy and too musician insanity, and it can be very like nothing complicated. Yeah. So it can kind of go all over the place, but that's also the fun of it, is like you don't know where it's heading. And that's what makes it such a fun genre to play and to listen to and to discover new bands in, because it's very musically adventurous, and that's what makes that genre so much fun.
Yeah, it is, especially a band like Tool. It took me years to get into Tool, like years, because I thought they were too long songs. Honestly,
it really was kind of.
They were long, but as time went on and I started getting into more subgenres of metal, I began to appreciate what Tool does, and I'm like, it's actually a pretty kick-ass song, especially for Inoculum. That album was so good.
Yeah,
I still need to get it on CD. I'm not gonna spend $60 on it.
Yeah, it's like I still don't get the situation with that. Like, it's only 3.5 years old, and it's like it's so hard to find a copy of it anywhere.
But then again,
I was lucky to got it cheap, and it was in great shape. So I was like, thank you.
But then again, Tool's one of those bands for the longest time didn't have anything on Apple, on Spotify. They just wanted you to stick to physical media.
Yeah.
Which, well, you can see from our show, we have a lot.
Which is the perfect segue. I love when that happens. Perfect segue, because we talk about this all the time about like everybody's preference for music listening. Like for you, Dylan, are you a CD guy, a vinyl guy, cassette guy, or digital guy?
Lately I've been just more digital. Like I just, it's for the only reason why is like I just don't have enough space. Like I would just buy up a bunch of, I would just buy as much vinyl as I possibly can. But also the reason why I go with more digital now as opposed to like CDs or vinyl is because the money that I would spend on CDs, like for hard copies, I could just get on digital, and then I could also just buy more drum stuff. So it's like, so it's tough in that sort of sense, because I just love CDs. But if I had to pick either CD or vinyl, then I would just go with the CD.
Yeah, because we usually get CDs because we know eventually one day streaming's gonna go away. But with CDs, you're always gonna have the music with you.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, and plus it's also a ritual. I know, like, a lot of people, they say when you get the vinyl, you kind of you open it up, you see the record, you look through all the artwork. It's the same thing with a CD, but it's kind of like our generation's version of it, but it's just smaller. Mm-hmm. But the digital. The reason why I just like digital is because I can just open up. I basically open up iTunes or Bandcamp or anything that I've just discovered. I can just have it right at my fingertips. But so I like so everything kind of has its benefits and also its weaknesses as well.
Yeah, like with CDs, like, as you can tell, Ricky and I are both CD guys. And it's because it's like with vinyl, I do love the presentation of it. I mean, those two Metallica vinyls, one Justice, that was a present master I bought out of Walmart, because I'm on a quest to eventually get the first 5 Metallica albums on vinyl, just so I could say I have the best 5 from Metallica on vinyl. But I always go CDs because, it's more convenient, it's a lot cheaper, and a lot more space, but also you get the best of both worlds. Like, it's still something physical in a digital format, and you can load it onto your computer and rip it onto the computer and put on your phone or tablet or whatever and have something on the go, but still be able to keep something physical, because, as Ricky said, there might be a day where there is no Spotify and there is no Apple Music, and you'll have to resort to getting physical media.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a shame when you discover a band and you can't find it anywhere. Can't find it on Spotify, can't find it on YouTube. You need to actually get the physical media to listen to the album, which we have had our share of albums that we spend more than we should.
Oh, yeah. It can be a problem. People say that, people probably tell me, like, I bet you the average person, if they were in this office and saw all that, they'd probably tell me I have a problem. It's like, nah, I can quit anytime I want. But if there's an intervention, I'm not fucking showing up.
Same with me. And the thing that I like about vinyls, I mean, I have a couple of vinyls. I don't have a vinyl player, but like Levi said, the space, also the cost, because, I'd rather buy 5 CDs for $20 instead of buying a $30 vinyl. I'd rather just spend that on CDs. Nothing against everyone who loves vinyls. I mean, our friend Hannah, she's the biggest vinyl freak that we know, and she loves vinyl to death. But vinyls is the one thing I like them is that, they come with different colors, different presentations, different editions. Same thing with CDs. Even though they're a bit more smaller, CDs are a bit more rare than vinyls, because vinyls, like,
it's becoming more common.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I was going to say, speaking of with Hannah and her vinyls, she has trained my bank account so much from the presents I've gotten for her, especially because she lives in Germany and the currency difference. It's like, damn it.
That's why I always buy them on Bandcamp.
Yeah, or buy it from the country that it's in, where she is in. So that way it's less time, less money, and it's perfect. But actually, speaking of the CDs, Dylan,
what's up?
Let me actually count how many shelves are full. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Starting on number 11, I would like you to pick from any of the 10 shelves, from the left rack, middle rack, or right rack. Pick random one.
Pick random. Oh, okay.
Or at least a number, more or less a number.
Okay.
Like shelf number, and then right, middle, or left.
Okay, let's go. This is like Price is Right. All right, now which one do you pick?
We're just playing Price is Right for a little bit now.
All right, so I'll go middle 4th shelf.
Middle 4th. Okay.
Right. Put your finger on the CDs, and then Dylan, you say when to stop.
Yeah, like I'll just go. Bling, bling,
Yeah.
bling,
Okay.
bling.
Okay. And stop.
And
we got Dying Fetus reigns supreme. Which, yeah, I have all the Dying Fetus stuff, and I'm wondering if they're going to announce the new album this year, because they dropped 2 singles and they've been both killer. Ricky, your turn.
All right, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 1 it's kind of almost full. So pick any of the shelves.
Okay, let's go with the third shelf.
Third shelf. All right, and tell me when to stop.
Okay, and stop.
Stop.
All right.
Oh, let's see what we get in this pile. Now this is good. Now this is where we're just gonna have a ton of fun, just playing games, just for fun.
Matando güeros.
Elia Colones.
It's funny enough. I'm actually going to see them live at the end of February here in my hometown. So,
oh, true.
Yeah.
Considering Ricky's background being Latino and Brujeria and their background, it's like that's a match made in heaven for him.
Or a match made in hell, depending on your preference.
Well, Ricky, I want you to pick for me, just for.
Alrighty.
Let's rotate.
Let's go. Shelf 6. In the middle.
All right.
Alrighty. Stop. What do we
got? King Diamond Them. which
Classic.
Dylan, actually, what's really cool is that Metal Blade, they've been doing the reissues of the King Diamond stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And it's all digipacks, but it opens like a vinyl. And really one of the coolest things I have ever seen is the CD itself looks like a vinyl.
Oh, that is cool. Okay.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool. And it has like the outside feels like a vinyl, which is
even the Merciful
cool.
Fate ones look like vinyl.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a cool idea. That, like, whoever came up with that.
Perfect hybrid.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect hybrid. Dylan, now your turn to go again for me.
Okay. Let's go with shelf. Well, let's go with row 7.
Row number 7. So we got mostly M's and N's.
So I wonder which band you're gonna get. I have a feeling I know which one.
We'll see. You never know. So left, middle, or right?
We'll go with left.
Ooh.
And stop.
Yeah, if it will slide out. We got Megadeth Countdown to Extinction original, not remaster.
Yeah, because those remasters suck.
The drums sound on the remasters are terrible.
God.
All right, Ricky, pick again for me.
All righty, let's go.
I feel like one of the freaking prop ladies from ISIS right now.
Let's go.
Hey.
Let's go. Shelf 9.
Let's see what's behind briefcase number 1.
Exactly. All right, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
At the first shelf, the first one.
Left.
Left, yes. Stop.
Oh, this will be up Dylan's alley. Rush Hemispheres.
Classic. Absolute classic record.
Absolute classic. My uncle Tim is one of the biggest Rush fans I know. And we were going to go see Rush on their farewell tour in 2015, but I had to work and he had to work. And I was like, ugh.
So, Dylan, can you guess more or less how many cities he has?
Ooh, okay.
Just based on...
Oh, shit. Okay.
I got so excited my phone fell off.
So how many would be in each kind of column per row?
Well, hang on, I got 5.
Yeah.
Where did my
would it be safe to say like it'd be 10 per column?
It depends.
It depends on like the size. Like some are really skinny and some are like really thick.
Okay.
On average, I would say.
I'd say so. It's 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna guess you have like 100. I'll just.
It would be about like 30 to 32 per section.
Let me go to his Discogs to get our actual number. More or less, if you're on the ball. Let me just go to his Discogs.
So let me just guess. So it'd be basically 90 per row. Per. So be 90. So I'm gonna guess 900. It's closer.
Yeah, it's over 900. I'm at about 930.
Oh crap! Okay, so
the shelf can hold almost 1,100, which I'm planning to get to 1,000 before the summer. So
yeah, he has 932.
Oh, wow.
Well, some of the ones I just added on there are stuff I'm waiting to get, but yeah, because I did make an order recently to get a couple of Napalm Death albums. I was missing like Smear Campaign and Words from the Exit Wound, Blind Guardians, Imaginations from the Other Side, Iron Maiden, Fear of the Dark, and the new Zentrix album, 7 Words. So, because right now I'm actually trying to save a little bit of money to buy a brand new GoPro for future videos and reviews and stuff, because I always get tired sometimes whenever I record with this little shit that sometimes I go to hit record and says encoding overload, yet it doesn't even use my CPU up that much. Technology, people. But
all right, Dylan, can you guess how many CDs you think I have?
Okay. Would it be the same kind of like it'd be about like 10 per? Would it be like 10 per row? You think, or
looks like about 15 to 20.
20, yeah.
20.
Because he's got a much smaller shelf than I do, but it spins, so there's like multiple, which that is pretty cool.
I'll go with 222.
Ooh, not even close.
Oh, what's the number?
323.
Ah, crap.
Still, I mean, he's basically trying to play catch up to me.
Because
you're playing catch up with fucking Nick. You're never gonna catch up.
Which I never will. I get it. The guy has about 10,000, but then again, he's in his mid-40s, so he's been around the block longer.
I was trying to do math. When you guys were saying like how many CDs do you guys have, I was trying to do math in my head, trying to go like, okay, if it's this amount in a row, and it's just like
like I said, I had 10 full rows with starting on number 11, and there's 12 rows altogether. So it's about to get full, and it's going to get closer to the point I'm going to have to get another shelf, and I'll have to rearrange again.
Do you guys often, when you have CD collections, do you guys go like alphabetical order, or do you guys, or you do genre?
Alphabetical.
Yeah, alphabetical and release date.
I think alphabetical and release date's much easier that way. Oh, where's I need to find Megadeth, M's.
Just go
Megadeth.
into the M's.
Yeah,
here we are.
I've asked a lot of people, and some people like to put it by subgenres, by colors, by record labels, or hell, release dates.
Yeah,
that's wild.
Yeah,
it's so many different avenues. Like hell, if I hope to get another shelf, I want to get like a smaller top rack and reserve that for like my favorite bands' completed discographies, like Metallica, Avenged Sevenfold, Opeth, Death. Just leave those on the top row and then have everything else normal. Because, I mean, it's crazy to think that I got everything Metallica except for the new album, but I'm going to be pre-ordering that eventually. But yeah, it's crazy. Like, I always feel like when I get money, I got nothing better to spend it on. So, other than the typical food and shit, but fuck it. I'm just like, I'm going to live out my dream and just buy music up as much as I can, to the point where I wish I could work at a record store and sell vinyl, CDs, cassettes.
I've always wanted to do that, trust me. I have no idea. I would love to like work at a record store.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Would you guys have... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I say I'll probably spend my whole paycheck on it, on CDs.
God knows I've done that so many times.
I did that once when I went to Houston. There's a record label. There's a record shop that I never went to, and they had some of the most what the fuck albums I never thought I would ever buy. I mean, you could easily buy them on eBay, but they were like there. Like I literally got the entire early stuff from Slayer, everything from Show No Mercy till Seasons of the Abyss. I got a couple of Carcass, some Tool. Hell, I even got some Judas Priest, which I never thought we'd get Judas Priest. And then of course I saw Diablo Sin Música. I was like, nope.
Would you guys have it be like a record store that just mainly just caters to metal, or would you have it kind of like Amoeba Records where it's like it does all different genres?
I would probably focus, for me, it would probably be like rock metal stuff, because it's like, I would love to go to Amoeba Records if I were to ever take a trip to California one day. I would probably spend like 2 hours at that place. Because, well, fun fact, about a year and a half ago, like Halloween time 2021, me and my family took a vacation up to Toledo, Ohio, because I'm not sure if you're familiar with the YouTube channel Thralls of Metal or not.
Thralls of Metal sounds familiar.
Yeah, because they've been able to get like interviews with like Max Cavalera and people like that, and they're also really good friends of mine. They're much older than me. They're like my brother Jason's age, like early 40s, but they're from Toledo, just south of Detroit. So I went up there because there's a resort called Maumee Bay State Parks, because my mom's a general manager of a state park here in Ohio, which is just 7 miles down the road from my house. So she has connections to all the other parks, and we decided to take a trip up there with my aunt, her husband, and one of my cousins. And I find out there are 3 record shops there, and I kid you not, I walked out of that trip with 30 CDs combined, all 3 shops, because the first shop, which was literally like 3 miles down from the park cabin I was staying in, there was this one shop. If you would have seen it, Dylan, you would have been like a kid in a candy shop, because you had vinyl, cassettes, CDs, shirts, drums, guitars, old video games. It was like the ultimate nerd and music paradise. Like, oh my God. And their metal section was so freaking huge. I was like, oh my God.
And remind me again, was that the one that you didn't ask the girl out for her phone number?
That was Tennessee. That was in Tennessee at a different place. Yeah, literally the same year I go to Smoky Mountains, Tennessee, at least once a year, and there's a record shop in a little mall that I go to, and I buy some stuff. And one of the last times I was there, I bought a few albums and some patches for my battle vest. One of the patches I got was a Creator Pleasure to Kill back patch. And there was this woman at the desk. She was really cute, purple hair, and I was like, she's got to be a metal chick. And I don't know if she just slipped and accidentally grabbed 2, or if she somehow liked me, but I had 2 back patches for the price of 1. I ended up giving the second patch away in a giveaway on a live stream forever ago. But yeah, and this fucker has not let it go, even though I went there the last time. She wasn't there, so it's like, sorry.
I mean, you never know, man. She could have been your soulmate.
You never know, but sadly, it ain't happening.
Well, if that happens next time, if you get the 2 back patches, then you take the second one, you write your number, and you slide it on the front counter.
Yeah,
and then you walk out the door.
Yep, and I'm all set.
Dating tip from Dylan. Call now for your appointment.
Because I remember that one joke you made on one of the reviews you and Blaine did a long time ago. Metaldating.com, and you go, it's 99% dudes. I remember I about pissed myself from that.
Oh man, that was so spontaneous though, because we, like, when we did the kind of like those kind of tag team reviews, like we used to do those quite frequently, but we don't do them really anymore. And to be honest, I don't know why. Those were so much fun to do because it's like you get to bounce off different ideas, and Blaine was like he's like Blaine is like one of those guys that the way that he acts on video is the same guy that he is off screen. I mean, the guy is just really like such a funny dude. He's a really, really funny dude. But I've been meaning to go to one of his comedy shows the last little while. I just never had the chance to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like if I were to someday like move out of this house and go up to Toledo and become one of the members of the Thralls guys, I feel like I would be rolling on the ground, laughing my ass off if I was next to fucking Joe or Ren, because those two, they're such goofs. Like, because it's funny, like those guys, if you ever get a chance to watch some of their reviews, especially their review of the last 6 Feet Under. Oh my God, the amount of jokes they threw into that.
Or Chris Barnes.
Or the latest review on their latest Five Finger Cussing, like, Five Finger Death Punch.
Yeah, that was pretty good too. And man, I love how Jammin' John at the end, his telling of the score, he just quotes Billy Madison. He's like, "Mr. Moody, what you have said are quite some of the most idiotic things I've ever heard in my life. At no point in any of your incoherent responses were you even close to a rational thought. Everyone is now dumber for having to listen to this album. I award you no score, and may God have mercy on your soul."
A simple,
like, why did I think of this?
A simple no would have sufficed.
At least I didn't have Altars of Madness on number 6
for Morbid Angel albums. Yeah, I got him. I think you were there, Ricky, for this when I did my Terry Funk impression and I called him Jackass John for it, and it kind of caught him off guard. He's like, "What the hell's going on?" But I had to explain the joke. He thought it was funny. Yeah, it's just the funny, like, goofy side of us all. But yeah, when they did that 6 Feet Under review, fucking Nick, his Chris Barnes impression, holy fuck! I've actually taken some of his Barnes quotes and I made a commercial parody out of it. I'll have to send you it because oh my God, it's the most over the top shit. Hey, where Barnes doesn't need click tracks.
But there was one review that I saw from the Metal Meltdown. Yeah. He has a really, really funny review on 6 Feet Under. My God, it's just like when that record came out. Everyone just dogpiled on him. It was it was rough. It was really, really rough because you had Jack Gowan just join the band, it was like a year into the band or something like that. And then when that record came out, I mean, it wasn't great. But
also Marco from Brain Drill on drums, I think. And it's like, how do you have these world-class musicians and yet this is what comes out?
Well, sometimes that just happens, right? I mean, you get some guys in a band that just have no chemistry whatsoever, but they're all good players by themselves, and that was just the case with 6 Feet Under. It's a tough listen.
Yeah.
And that's just putting it lightly.
Yeah. But but there was we've there's some records though, like it's a rough listen. Like I know the Dark Sarah record that was from a couple of years ago was really rough. That was kind of like, because I think the biggest complaint that I get from from like people who watch Banger TV is I give a lot of positive reviews, but that's just because the records that I've listened to for the channel I've really, really enjoyed. So then when I gave Dark Sarah a negative review for their record, it was like the comment section was like, "Oh my God, he actually hates something for once."
I mean, hey, it happens. Like, I mean, hell, like last year, I mean, I rarely, if at all, did a negative review. I think the most negative review I did was for that new Five Finger Death Punch. All it was a 10-second clip of me just saying, "So Five Finger Death Punch Afterlife?" not good enough. 4 out of 10. Because it was just a joke from a wrestling joke from Bret Hart, greatest Canadian wrestler of all time. But yeah, it was just, I just wanted to do that just because it was like, I was thinking in my head, do people really want me to say my opinion on this album? Like, honestly, I would have just said, I despise. So it would have just been like 15 minutes of self-torture. And it's like,
oh yeah.
As entertaining as it would have been, my face would have probably turned red from anger, and I probably would have exploded and died. Some people might like that, I don't know. But
even when he gave a good album review to Fair Inoculum, the comments on his video were going at him.
Yeah, it's like, I genuinely love that album, and I kept I mean, this is what happens when you're on YouTube.
Man, that Fear Inoculum record, I really enjoyed it, but I was still in university at the time before taping that. So I said it was supposed to be Invincible, and I accidentally said Invisible. Because I was so freaking tired staying up all night studying for an exam.
Yeah.
Went to class, took the exam. Then after that was done, I had to beeline it all the way to Banger, do that review, and then go back home and then study for another exam I had the next night. So it was like I was just trying to do too many things at once. And I remember I slipped up and I said, and I just somehow in my script, I just totally messed that up. And the comments are just like no mercy, right? Like hell, to take a wrestling plug, it's like hell in the cell, no holds bars, like just brutal. like it's just like, you know, Undertaker throwing Mankind off of the
yes.
My god. The tooth sticking out, you know. It's just comment sections can be brutal,
tough. They can be tough. Yeah, like I remember reviewing the Meshuggah album last year, and I wasn't too keen on it. And like I kept seeing people say, "Oh, this is the best Meshuggah album ever," and it's like, you sure you're going to compare this to Destroy, Erase, Improve? Like, huh? Like it was all right, but it's not, for me at least, not the best Meshuggah album. I wasn't saying it was bad. Like people just, and it happens, and it's I've grown used to it, and it's like,
Well, that's the thing, especially if you're reviewing any sort of record online. It's like at first you kind of get it takes you aback a bit, whereas somebody's like throwing like a negative comment at you, and sometimes they'll go at you personally, and then, but at the same time, it's like, you know, whenever you have an opinion on a record or just anything, you're going to get negative comments regardless. I mean, for every 10 comments that are positive, you'll get 1 negative or something like that. And, you know, you just kind of have to just brush it off, kind of a thing. And
especially the older you get, the more it's easy to just brush it off. Like, definitely years ago, whenever I was doing wrestling reviews, oh my God! Back in those days, I wish I had the gift of my friend who's also named Dylan from North Dakota, who used to do videos called Stupid Comments, where he would just look at all the bad comments he would get on videos and just have a blast, just reading them out loud and saying something funny. And people think, does he do this because he doesn't have any self-esteem? He's like, no. He's like, I do it because I think it's funny to laugh at some of this. But I mean, everybody approaches it differently, and that's just how you
it depends. It depends on the person.
I mean, opinions are like assholes. Yeah. Everybody's got one.
Yeah. So Dylan, I want to ask you this. You mentioned about going to your first concert. I want to ask you, what has been your favorite concert memory? A memory that you will always remember. Something that happened, you're like, can't believe this happened to me.
It's a good question, because it's like, it's really tough to pick just one, because it's also like the first time I saw Cynic, I was blown away, and it was kind of like, this is going to sound so dorky and so lame, but it was kind of like an out of body experience watching Cynic. And That's one. Focus. Freaking amazing
I still
record.
need to get Traced in Air. Like, I need that album so bad.
Oh, Traced in Air, Kindly Bent to Free Us.
Even the last album was really good.
Oh, it was insane. And Paul, I mean, the fact that the guy had to make a record after both of his friends passed away, it's like...
It was hard. It must have been hard.
Dude, I can't imagine what he was going through. I mean, that was so incredibly difficult. He must have been in such an like, God, I can't imagine what he went through when he was making that record. But I mean, that was one of the best records I think I've ever listened to. But anyway, sorry, going back to the concert thing.
Yeah.
Watching Cynic play for the first time was incredible. The first mosh pit I ever got into was actually Between the Buried and Me. It was actually at the same show. It was one of those crazy stacked lineups. If you think about it, it was Scale the Summit, Devin Townsend Project, Cynic, and Between the Buried and Me. It was an absolutely insanely stacked bill. And that's when Obfuscation came out. Sorry, no, not Great Misdirect by Between the Buried and Me, when that record came out. And that mosh pit just went freaking insane. So I jumped right in, and I was so like stoked on it. But one of the craziest concert memories that I saw was when it was Animals as Leaders opening up for Between the Buried and Me. And there's a place in Toronto called the Phoenix Concert Hall that used to be this old kind of like opera house that got converted into kind of like a rock club. But they still kept some of the architecture there because it's part of the vibe. So there's a balcony that doesn't really go anywhere. It's mainly just to kind of hang lights and stuff like that. Somehow a guy during Animals as Leaders set, when KFO was playing, somehow a guy went past all the security that's around, gets up on top of the balcony, and he's really high up. It's like almost where the light fixture, or like where the lights are, right? The bars that holds all the lights. He's that high, and he jumps. He jumps off of it, and the crowd's like just wanting to just like grab him, right? Because he'll die if he falls on the ground. Yeah. And all you just see is Tobin Abassi. He's playing. He's just going.
He's just like awkwardly like, okay, let me.
He's just
play it.
It looks like he just saw a ghost. He was just like, oh my God, is that guy alive? It was one of the craziest things I ever saw at a concert. But I mean, outside of that, there've been nothing that's that insane. But I remember, but one of the coolest things though ever was when we opened for Elvati. When Vesperia opened for Elvati, we were playing that same venue. Actually, we were playing like 2 weeks after that Between the Buried and Me show. And I just remember when we went on stage, this is just, we just came back from Vakken after that show. And I just remember like it was a whole sold out crowd, and they were just like chanting, like, you know, they're going like like during one of the songs, I think it was for Liege Lord, they started chanting all in unison, and it was just so freaking cool. Like everybody just went nuts for that show. So it's like, I mean, outside of being a concert goer, as like playing in front of people, that was one of the coolest moments.
Yeah, because to me, and I'll always tell this story, one of my favorite concert memories was actually meeting the guys from Cradle of Filth.
Oh, Danny?
Almost, no. Here's how the story is. Yeah. So this was in 2018. This was, I think they were doing the anniversary for Cruelty and the Beast, if I remember correctly. Or I think it was the album they released during that time. I think it was the last one Lindsay was a part of.
Oh.
So it was 2018. So I go there. This to San Antonio. San Antonio to my area, it's like a 2-hour drive. At the time, I didn't have a car. So what was the next big thing? I took a bus. Took a bus from my hometown to San Antonio, 2-hour drive. I get there to the venue. It's called the Aztec Theater next to the Riverwalk in San Antonio. So the venue right there, right in the middle, is the San Antonio River. Next to the river, it's a Baptist church. And I'm trying to think, oh God, we're going to have some trouble right now. They're going to be protesters going on and on, you know, because of Cradle of Filth and all that.
Yeah.
Not only that, this was during the exact same time that the Notre Dame church was burning. So already bells were starting to think, oh God, somebody burned down the church. They're gonna blame on us, and so I was already being paranoid that once I get to the venue, there were gonna be protesters. Thankfully, there wasn't, but a part of me wanted to be some protesters just to see how it felt, just for the hell of it. So I get there maybe an hour, 2 hours early before the show, and I was able to get in early to be at the front row. The venue, it was red and black. It was Wednesday 13, and then Cradle Filth closed the show. So I'm excited, and of course they do their set, amazing show. And then after the show, I was like, you know what? Let me see if I have any chance of meeting everyone from Cradle Filth. My bus would actually leave at 12 midnight to go back to my hometown. And it was already 10:30, and it was 11. And during that time, I met some guys who eventually found out they were from my hometown. And we went to the same high school, just different year. We were talking and all that, seeing how things have been over the years. And then time was going on, 11:45. I actually had to go back to my bus, which is like a 10-minute walk. But one of the guys I met there said that he was willing to drive me home because he was from my hometown. So you're going to understand, a complete stranger I just met like 30 minutes ago was willing me to give me a drive back home to stay and meet the guys from Cradle Filth. Wow. So we stayed there for a bit. Around 12:30-ish, everyone starts to come out. You know, Lindsay, Craig, everybody except for Danny and Daniel, the bassist. So I was able to meet everybody, took some pictures, especially with Lindsay, because I love Lindsay. That was like the biggest highlight. And then I wanted to stay a bit longer to meet Daniel and Danny, but Danny wasn't coming out, which understandable. I mean, he's tired, he wants to relax.
He fucking messed his voice up
and the guy squeals. And the guy had to go home already. So we're like, you know what, let's just cut it there. So we go home. We arrived to my hometown around 3 a.m, and he asked me by what area I live in. I live by the south side, he lives by the north side. He couldn't drive me to my house because he had to go to work as soon as he got, back to town. So he calls me a cab, and the cab drops me to my house. And you know what's the best part about this? My parents never knew about this. They never knew that I took a ride from a complete stranger and took a cab home. Wow. To this day, they don't know. I just told them I'm going to be coming late with my friend. After we get to our hometown, we're going to go eat. It was total bullshit.
And I was smirking a moment ago because I remember the stories you tell me about Rick Ross. And then you've met him when Left to Die played.
Yeah, so for the longest time I had a beef for Rick Ross. So the story
quote beef.
Yeah, quote unquote beef. So the reason I had beef with Rick Ross was because Massacre was supposed to play my hometown. And the promoter, which I'm good friends with, he promoted that show like crazy. People were coming from, across Mexico, from Monterrey and from San Antonio, from Austin to see Massacre. It was going to be a huge show, and it was a sellout. And the promoter told me, because I'm good friends, he was going to have a meet and greet free of charge. You can meet the band before they would go on stage. So I was already getting excited, and then of course at the very last minute, like a week before, they canceled the tour. And I asked my friend, why did they cancel the tour? He was like, because they wanted to. And I was like, what do you mean they wanted to? Yeah, they just decided to cancel it just for the hell of it. And I'm like, are you serious? And like, yeah. So I had that beef with Rick Ross for the longest time. And then, of course, Left to Die came last year. Was it last year? Yeah, came in last year. And, of course, they were doing a tribute to the, of course, Leprosy album. And, of course, I took my Leprosy CD just in case I got to meet Rick Ross and Terry Butler, which I did meet them. I took pictures with them, and they signed my Leprosy CD. But I never told Rick Ross that I'd be with him because I don't want him to fucking beat me.
You didn't want him to punch you in the mouth.
No, I didn't want him to punch him. But, I mean, so, that rivalry with Rick Ross that I had for a while, buried under the hatchet, had an amazing show, made up for it, signed my Leprosy CD. So we're good with that.
In all always cracked me up whenever he would bring the Rick Ross thing up, and it's like, oh dear Lord.
Yeah. And I was ready. I was like, if I bring it up, I'm ready. I'll take a fucking punch. I don't care.
I'll go. I'm just bracing for it.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, but I've met so many artists over the years. I've met, like I said, the guys from Orgy. I've met the guys from Wada, Cradle Phil, Red and Black. Who else have I able to meet? Just so many. I was able to get a lot of picks. That's why I always like to go at the front. Get the guitar picks I've got from Mars, Arch Enemy, Carcass, Omen, Motorgator, and on and on and on. Something that this fucker is jealous of, because I've gone to more concerts than he has. Tell him how many concerts you've gone to.
Not counting local festivals. 1.
You've been to one concert?
Yeah, it was last fall. I went and saw, even though it's kind of irks me, I had to pay a ticket for Five Finger Death Punch, but I got to see Megadeth live, and I wanted to see them for so long, and they killed it. For 1 hour, they killed it, but also opening was Fire from the Gods, which was pretty solid, like metalcore, new metal stuff, and then you had the Mongolian band Who, H-U. Oh my God, they were so entertaining. They were so fucking wow, irritating. Wow.
Entertaining?
You speak entertaining. God damn it. Entertaining as hell, and I had a ball listening to them, and then Megadeth played, and the one thing I was hoping and praying, well, 2 things I was hoping and praying for. Play the song Soldier On from the new album to watch Dirk Verburen do the Dirk Blast, and my favorite Megadeth song, Holy Wars. And I got my wishes, and I was like, yes. And actually, grab something real quick. If I could find it. Where are you?
Somewhere around there.
I got it. Bought my first ever tour shirt for Megadeth with the dates, and the date was it was right here, September 28th, Cincinnati, Ohio, at the Riverbend Music Pavilion, which, holy crap, it was a nice place.
Yeah.
But right now, as far as like if I'm planning to go to shows, I'm trying to find somebody that will go with me to go see Vitriol, Crypta, Revocation, and Morbid Angel in April. Because I love Revocation, but I love Morbid Angel. So that would be a killer time. And maybe get to meet Steve Tucker and Trey Azagduth. That would be fucking sweet.
That would be sweet.
Especially Trey, just because it's like, oh my God, I'm such a fan of his guitar playing.
But in terms of concert that I just went crazy was when I saw Iron Maiden for the first time. I went nuts. Because it's Iron fucking Maiden.
What was that?
Iron Maiden.
No. I'm like, what year? What did you see? Did you see Maiden?
Oh yeah, Legacy of the Beast, 2019.
Oh wow.
Which I almost got to go to at that same place I saw Megadeth live.
Yeah, it was in San Antonio. It was their last tour date in the States, and after that, we're gonna go to Mexico. And then last year, I had the opportunity to see Rammstein, and that just blew everything up. Literally blew everything up.
Yeah, like literally me and some of my wrestling buddies, because we also do a wrestling podcast on Saturdays called The Shadow Cult, and literally he called us from the venue before we went live for the podcast, and it was like, holy crap, the place he was in was fucking huge.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, with Rammstein and the amount of stuff they got on stage, you have expected to be in a big.
You have no idea. You have no idea. I was at the very top, and I could feel the fire. I could literally feel it like burning in my skin.
You have to see the time lapse it takes when they're building their entire stage setup.
Yes,
it takes like it's crazy. It takes 6 days, and then on the seventh day, they play, and then they tear that all down, which is insane to think about. That must be such a grueling way to set up a whole live show, but I bet it looks incredible.
Oh, I have no idea. It looks amazing.
Yeah. And hell, as far as like a show that happened in recent years, that if only I had known it was happening sooner, I would have begged and pleaded family to let me go. 2017, Gojira, Avenged Sevenfold, Metallica in Cincinnati. I would have died to go to that show to see all three bands. Because, oh my God, that would have been amazing.
Yeah, and for me, I would have died if I couldn't gone to AC/DC either during the Rocker Bus tour. It was in Houston, and I have family in Houston. I was like, please let me go, let me go. At the time, I was like 18, had no job, trying to get out of high school. My parents were like, nope.
Man, one concert that I really wanted to see, but I completely missed was Stolen Babies, Paradise Lost, Catatonia, and Devin Townsend Project.
Ooh.
It was a very small run that they did. That was only on the East Coast of Canada and the United States. But man, it would have been such a good show to see.
Yeah.
Because it was both extended sets too. That Catatonia and Devin Townsend were co-headlining that tour. But Devin was going to close the Toronto show. But Catatonia played for about 90 minutes, and same with Devin Townsend. So that would have just been an insane show to see.
Yeah. Another band that I've seen that's completely insane live, Behemoth.
Oh, Behemoth, yeah.
God, their shows are so amazing, especially when I saw them with Arch Enemy and Carcass and two others. The fact
you meant Napalm Death, not
Carcass. I'm sorry. I have Carcass in the mind. Napalm Death, which I got to get one of Sean's picks, but the fact that Behemoth closed with "O Father, O Satan, O Son," to me that was the highlight of the night because I love that song. I love the Satanists. We love the Satanists so much.
Yes. Yeah.
Was John Rice playing drums for Behemoth on that tour, or did they have who's the guy?
Inferno.
Inferno, yeah.
It was Inferno, yeah. It was Inferno. Yeah.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
Guy's a crazy drummer. Absolutely.
Yeah, but speaking of Inferno, I need to check out his band Azeroth, because that's basically like if you took Behemoth and Vader and mixed it together. It's like I need to check those guys out. But earlier I brought up the wrestling reference, and you, Mr. Gowan, brought up wrestling reference. So, wrestling fan much?
Not much as I used to be. Like, like I had like maybe about one. I think like everybody like kind of goes through a bit of a wrestling phase for about like maybe like a couple weeks, maybe a month, and I kind of had like a little bit of a wrestling phase because I just liked all the different characters that came out, and I mean the one that caught my attention was Mankind, where it comes out with the mask and he has the
horse mask
and the sock, and I thought that was so cool, the tattered, and then recently I watched Dark Side of the Ring, and it's funny, I'm not as much of a wrestling fan, but I definitely respect the amount of work and the dedication all these guys put into their craft. And watching that program, I was just like, it's crazy, all these stories that they're telling. Like they did one of the Ultimate Warrior that I thought was really interesting. Yeah. As well as, but the plane ride from hell. Holy
that one was insane.
Like I didn't like from like an outsider's perspective, hearing a story like that, you're thinking, holy shit. Like I'm surprised that the plane didn't go down because of the guys.
Once Brock Lesnar and Kurt Hennig wrestle and they hit the door, it's like, what would have happened if that door came open? Oh God.
Yeah, like one of the episodes that to this day a lot of people like are scared of to watch is the Benoit part 1 and part 2. That's of course what happened.
Oh, is it because oh shit. Okay, now I remember. Yeah, what happened. Yeah, because like fuck. Yeah, because I know
like we as wrestling fans, when they announced they were gonna do the Benoit story, we knew what they were gonna say about it. We kind of knew already in stone, but there was some stuff that we didn't really know.
Yeah.
But
yeah, considering like, Benoit, he was one of my favorites and up there amongst the best wrestlers to come from Canada. And it's a shame what happened at the end of his life, and now it's tarnished him. But I mean, it happened. Nothing you can do to change it. It's almost 16 years ago. I was 12 going on 13 when that happened.
It's just shocking to think.
It's a because it feels like every single wrestler, especially because like WWE has a lot of it's mostly American wrestlers, right? Yeah, because there's only about like a handful of Canadian wrestlers in the WWE, right? So like like Edge sometimes will go to like the Maple Leaf games, and like once the Leafs are playing, everybody goes and watches that game because Canada hockey is huge here, and Edge is like. He's especially in Toronto because he's from here, but also like Chris Jericho from being I think he's from Manitoba, I think, and then
Winnipeg.
Yeah, Winnipeg. Yeah, so and then you have the Hart family out in Alberta, and so it feels like every single when there's a Canadian that's in like a heavily American organization, like they're huge celebrities here.
Oh yeah, I mean, hell, Edge, he's still fucking going. Well, he came out of retirement. Well, he came out of retirement 3 years ago, and he's nearing the end of his career now. But he's still got it. And then Jericho, he's still fucking going in his early 50s. Although, granted, put on a fucking shirt. Jeez, it's like I thought I had fat rolls, but now he's not even fat. He's just getting older, so he's looking pudgier. But still, he can still kick your ass and still sing great in Fozzy too, which is awesome.
Yeah,
but like, and it's funny because currently one of the biggest stars in WWE right now, Sami Zayn from Montreal.
Oh, cool.
Like,
okay.
Oh my god. He has made so many people laugh. Like he had a match with Johnny Knoxville from Jackass at last year's WrestleMania. That was amazing.
So they just pretty much like they just get like a bunch of celebrities for WrestleMania, right? Is it that's kind of like the epicenter?
Sometimes.
Still pretty
much. Yeah.
But what's different, it's like what's different from when you was watching it for a bit compared to now when it comes to celebrity involvements. The celebrities have to actually take the bumps and put in the work. They can't just sit there and just be like, oh, I'll just stand here and not do anything. They actually have to take the bumps.
Yeah.
Like Knoxville, which Knoxville's natural because, stuntman, so he's used to being punished.
Yeah.
But then, like, Bad Bunny, he's somehow really good. And then, like, Logan Paul, who,
my God.
Despite what I might say about him as a human being sometimes, I don't think he's the worst person in the world, but man's a hell of an athlete. And it happens. And like you were bringing up, like with Canada and WWE, not that many Canadians right now compared to what was before. But yeah, you got Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, both from Montreal.
Yeah.
And I was smirking because Ricky the other night on the podcast had a mental breakdown over who? Who did you have a breakdown?
You really want me to say it?
Yes.
Jinder fucking Mahal.
Because the story with that is this guy, he's from I'm trying to remember what part of Canada he's from. I think he's from Alberta, but he's Indian because he has Indian parents from the country of India. Right. So, and for many years he was like one of the guys who would a jobber, be like the guys who constantly lose all the time to help make the other guys look good. 6 years ago, out of nowhere, he's WWE champion after spending his whole career being a jobber. Yet he got the belt. And what makes Ricky upset about it is the fact that he was a bigger star for world champion over his favorite, Eddie Guerrero.
Oh, okay.
Which I get. It's asinine, but sadly it's the truth. Yeah. But yeah, it's like now recently in wrestling though, you're seeing more international stars come in, mostly from the UK and Europe in general. Like hell, my favorite currently is a wrestler, real name Walter, but he goes by the name of Gunther. And I guarantee you, if this guy was in wrestling when you watched where Mankind and Undertaker was, rest in peace their chests. Because like I'm sure you've known about Ric Flair and like him doing the chops.
Gunther, the chops to the chest.
Yeah, the chops to the chest. Gunther's chops will make your chest bleed.
He does it with his full arm, like
full hand, right? And because he had a match with Sheamus from Ireland, and because most Irish people don't tan very well, quote unquote, he's bright white. So when he got chopped, his chest looked like hamburger meat. It was bloody and red. It was like, jeez.
Well, I think the one thing that kind of got my attention with wrestling recently, outside of that show Dark Side of the Ring, was also the Poppy being on NXT, because because a buddy of mine just joined her her live band, and so I was watching the program trying to find where he is, because that was at the time where they had the masks on, and but yeah, it was interesting seeing like a bunch of like some metal bands that are playing with NXT, and it's almost like the next what are up and coming metal acts. And I know Poppy is kind of like, for like the elitist, is kind of like
borderline.
Like, yeah.
Poppy's Poppy. I mean, she has some kick-ass songs.
Yeah. It's kind of like I don't know. There's always been like the kind of, the elitism thing with metal. I've always hated, because it's just
I'm with you on that. I did a whole video about it, and
I mean the fact that they've had bands like, of course, New Year's Day, Code Orange, Poppy, Motorhead, for fuck's sake.
I mean, hell, if it wasn't for wrestling, I wouldn't have been a Motorhead fan.
Because that's kind of the correlation, though, with like wrestling and metal, is that they're both intense styles of art forms, like entertainment. It's very aggressive. It's really, it's almost like metal being the soundtrack to wrestling is kind of a no-brainer. And plus the intro music to a lot of these guys, where they're trying to hype up the crowd, it's it's all metal.
Very metal centric. And I was gonna say, what's crazy too, it's like, and good half of the wrestlers are big metalheads themselves. Jericho being an obvious one, Triple H, really big one. Hell, Triple H, when he was running NXT, he was the one that brought in Poppy and Code Orange, and even used other bands for the theme songs. Like, hell, if it wasn't for Triple H and NXT, I wouldn't have found Power Trip.
Wait, Power Trip on there?
Well, they didn't play, but they had Executioner's Tax as a theme song for one of their pay-per-views, which was really cool.
Gotcha.
But like also it's kind of weird too, like with music and wrestling. The two people in music and wrestling that have had paralleled careers, Chris Jericho and Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins. Because both grew up in the same way, loving metal and rock and wrestling. For Jericho, wrestling took off first, then music. For Corgan, music took off first, then wrestling, because he owns the NWA now.
Right. Again, it's shocking that he owns the NWA.
And he's like passionate on all fronts about music and wrestling. And it's funny, they were both on an episode of That Metal Show together with Max Cavalera 8 years ago. And it was so entertaining to see them gossip about music and wrestling and stuff. It was so funny.
One of the weirdest collabs that I think I ever saw was Devin Townsend and Chris Jericho. That was one thing I never thought I would ever see in my life. That was just like, it's the most random collaboration. That's like you're putting Spider-Man in with in an anime or something like that. Like it's just really bizarre, but somehow it works. And And I'd be curious though, like what would be, what wrestler would be perfect in a progressive metal band?
Oh,
I'm gonna try and base it off of current talent. Honestly, I would say Gunther, because it's funny, his music, well, he used to come out to an actual symphony when he was in NXT UK. Now he comes out to the beginning of it, and then it's like a mix of like a heavier rock tune and like opera. And when he wrestled in the indies, he used to come out to like Rammstein and stuff. So I would say Gunther, because he's super aggressive, but he's very articulate and intricate about wrestling. Like his gimmick is basically treating wrestling like it's an actual sport. Like he showed up on Raw a couple weeks ago with DX and Kurt Angle. And he's like, "How dare you make a mockery out of this great sport?" Because he's so intense. So I would say Gunther would be a good example.
Yeah,
but that I actually remember a while back on my Instagram, just on my story post, I decided to say, like, I'm going to take a genre of metal and give you a wrestler that I think fits the genre. Dylan, off the top of your head, who do you think would be the wrestling equivalent to death metal?
Wrestling equivalent to death metal? I mean, one that comes to mind instantly is Kane.
Close. Very close.
I mean, another one, maybe Undertaker?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had Undertaker for death metal, Sting for black metal, Triple H for thrash, Stone Cold Steve Austin for groove metal, the Pantera and the Lamb of Gods of the world.
Yeah.
And like it was just so out of control. I went nuts on that, but it's like immediately Sting, because of the corpse paint, obviously would fit in black metal, and also like his gimmick being filled with sadness, especially when the Crow character, that's so black metal. And then Undertaker, you know, being revolved around the grave and death and tombstones and cemeteries, that's death metal. Particularly, I would say Death Doom, particularly like Hooded Menace, Asphyx. I would say that's more fitting towards Undertaker. But it's crazy. It's crazy to think how connected wrestling and metal really is. I mean, hell, fucking Paul Heyman, when he ran ECW, he would always use metal songs for every wrestler's theme, and even a soundtrack for ECW and metal. And like that was how I found Bruce Dickinson covering Scorpions to Zoo, one of my favorite cover songs of all time.
I mean, Sandman, coming to enter Sandman.
Yep. I mean, so many. There's just so many. It's insane. But yeah, I mean, that's basically mine and Ricky's two biggest loves, is metal and wrestling. But of course, like everybody always will compare metal with something that they love, whether it be sports, art, entertainment.
I mean, for me, like I often compare metal to hockey, because like I'm obviously being from Toronto, which is like more hockey players come out of the GTA than any place on the planet. And so growing up playing hockey, it's like, it's a natural fit to have metal kind of tie in with that, because it's such a fast sport. It's really physical. There's there's like, it's really fast paced. It's really intense. It's very, it's a very aggressive sport, and it just feels like it's just a natural kind of correlation between the two.
Oh yeah. I mean, metal can go into so many directions in terms of like fitting it in with any other form of entertainment. Like hell, I remember a long time ago, I just made a custom video just for fun. I took the song Chasm by The Haunted from their first album because it's so thrashy and aggressive. Because the original music video, too, was just showing a bunch of skateboard and BMX wipeouts. And because I was a big motorsports fan for a while, not until recent years, but I would take that song and the music video for it, but replace all the skating and BMX wipeouts with NASCAR crashes just for fun. And I thought, this is perfect. This is perfect because, you know, it fits because the vibe of the song, as well as the original video having wipeouts from other action sports. It was like, why the hell not?
Yeah.
Why the hell not? You know? But, damn, I was I had something else in my head too. my mind blanks. My mind blanks too much. Jeez.
You push your fingers into your eyes.
Or after listening to that last 6 Feet Under album, it's like, I push my fingers into my ears. Well, I think we've run out of stuff to really go into, so I guess we can call it there. But yeah, this was a hell of a lot of fun. Like, holy shit, probably the most fun I've had on this show in a little bit, in like a few months. So this was fun to have you on and just nerd out, like we said, like nerding out about prog and other forms of music, and it was great. So for those who are watching, I have the links to Dylan's socials in the description, to his Instagram, to Vesperia's Bandcamp, Malice Divine's Bandcamp, Twitter, Facebook, all the good stuff, to save you the trouble of having to say everything again. So figured I'd help you out a little bit, but yeah, this was a lot of fun. We definitely should get you back on here. Like, if we ever decide to do like a top 10, like a revamp of our top 10 prog metal albums.
Oh, God.
We would love to have you on there, because that would be fun.
I think we redid that.
Redoing it, revitalizing it, because we want to get this guy on there.
Well, I already have the top 5 in my head, but yeah.
The other 5 you'll have to think.
The other 5 is going to be it'll be tough. You'll be picking from the Lamborghinis, from the Ferraris, to any sort of other car. Yeah. So yeah, no, that'd be a lot of fun. And yeah, no, this is great. No, thank you so much, guys, for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
You're very, very welcome. And as far as like future updates for this show, we are hoping to get back to a normal flow of the show, of course, with everybody else that's a part of the show busy with life. So it's basically been the Ricky and I show for a while, but eventually we'll get our old crew back together. And also we still got a couple other interviews coming up, like John McEntee from Incantation eventually. Yeah. We want to get James from Hellripper back for the top 10 first wave / proto black metal albums list.
Yeah. We want to get Jeff Becerra, still in the works.
Possessed, yeah. We got to get in touch with him. I mean, the sky's the limit now for this show. Now that we've got the power to get to talk to actual musicians or people within the genre that are close to us in terms of interest, it's sky's the limit. It's absolutely incredible. And who would have thought? Again, I said it before we went live for it, and I'll still say it again. Who would have thought that just a simple Instagram chat with myself and Dan Swano led to us getting to talk to him? It blows my mind, but like I still remember right after we ended that episode, I literally was like, oh God, and I ran out of the room and I was jumping for joy like a little kid, because it's like, oh my God, I did that.
And I told him, keep your composure. Keep your composure.
I did.
Reel it in.
I let it all go until after it was done. Well, actually, before we go, one funny thing. When we interviewed Jeremy Wagner from Broken Hope, great interview. And it was amazing to get to talk to him. And hell, it was through him we find out new Broken Hope album this year, which, oh yes. But literally not 5 minutes after we ended the episode, a big wind and rainstorm came and knocked our power out. So it was like, man, I really got through that one quick. Otherwise it would have been bad. It's like, ugh. It was like I got lucky that day, but I digress. But anyways, thank you guys for joining us for this episode. And thank you once again, Dylan, for being a part of this episode. Probably one of my favorite episodes we've ever done. But until next time, keep your horns high and your dreams wet. And we'll see you next time.
Cheers, guys.
And